You can do it from there if you want.
No, that's okay. That's fine.
All right, let's just do it. We'll get him up here. Good morning. Please stand. Join me just as long as I have breath number 6 in the hymnal. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Good to see you. I said hi to your other half earlier, but you know, I try to do this introduction. The words are very meaningful. We've thought them out, and it's part of a ritual which is very important to church services. But sometimes it feels a little rehearsed. And I never want it to, so I like to be able to say hi, good to see you, interrupt myself. So, hi, it's good to see you. Thank you all, thank you. But it is such an important part of our, to set the tone for the service each Sunday to welcome you with those words of, we embrace your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, your uniqueness, all of that stuff. It's important because that's really who we try to be, right? That's our aspiration. That's who we say we are. So. And I haven't said it for 2 weeks. I was out of the pulpit for 2 weeks. Actually, I was down in Alabama speaking at a church there, which was fun. But I didn't say this. So anyway, that's enough. It's good to have you. It's good to have you. And good to have everybody streaming with us to do. And I think our friends are still on Zoom with us, so we're going to say hi to them in a little bit too. There they are. Oh, Terry, our friend, I should say, is still on Zoom with us.
Yes. Well, we were having a very stimulating conversation about tolerance, but I said I couldn't tolerate them going into the second service because I wanted to make an announcement, and that announcement is to welcome or invite you all to attend a Zoom meeting next Thursday evening, starting at 4:30 your time. And we're looking at the kind of a deep view of ecology, climate change, and civilization collapse, perhaps. But we're listening to videos and having a discussion throughout and after by Michael Dowd. And Michael Dowd is an Minister's done a lot of work at Unitarian churches, but he spent about the last 8 years, as he says himself, in a real deep study of ecology and survivalism, and so it's a very interesting videos and discussion that follows. But what my motivation in helping to organize this was because we're starting to get some very interesting people that we've come to know by Zooming together over the past year, and then being able to benefit from the wonderful services from Spokane after and before. But I think there's a lot of wonderful people in Spokane in the congregation who we haven't really got to meet that well. And so I thought if we have a Zoom session and made sure that we invited people from the congregation to join us, they would get a sense of who the Zoomers are, and we can get a sense of you. So I hope that you'll be able to attend. It is, again, 4:30 on Thursday the 5th, and the URL, I won't read it out, but it is in the Sunny newsletter from the last couple of weeks. So if you look in there, you'll see it, and hope to see you then. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Terry. Hey, Terry, real quickly before you go, because I know you already attended our early service. So the Zoom group, for those who don't know, our Zoomers are currently at the first service only. So the folks here might not even recognize you, Terry. Terry's one of our church members. Terry, will you tell folks where you're from, where you're at, coming to us from this morning?
Sure. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada, and I'm active on the board of NAUA, and a long time, 50-year plus Unitarian who just couldn't handle it anymore at my local congregation. So here I am.
Thank you, Terry. It's been great becoming your friend over these past few years and getting to know you, and thanks for all the support, and it's great to have you as part of our church, and thanks for sticking around to encourage us to come together via Zoom later this week.
Thanks, Todd.
All right. So, want to move from that to actually let me get a couple more announcements out of the way, and then we'll get into a little more serious stuff we have to talk about this morning. One, I want to let you know, even though the UUA has gotten rid of its partner church program, those of us who have been part of a partner church program for years, since 1980s, Julie, 1990? We've had this partnership. Our church has had a partnership with a congregation in Felșeracos, Romania, a village there. And part of that has included sponsoring young people who are going into university. And we have three, we just got word that there are 3 students that could use sponsors this year. So if you're interested in helping to sponsor someone from our partner village, please see Julie Jose right up here at the front after the service, or send her an email if you think about it later. But Julie, thanks for helping to continue this important relationship with these lovely people that have been part of our lives for a long time. Also, a community auction is starting. That's where we donate things and bid on things eventually. It could be a dinner somewhere at someone's home. It could be renting a lake house for a weekend, or sharing some sort of skill or craft. I think what I'm going to do this year is offer some kind of one-on-one, or maybe one-on-5 or something, training of how to create use AI to create a video, right? And by the way, I'm gonna do that next Saturday. Initially it was 10, but I want to be able to include the men's group that also meets on that Saturday. So at 10:30 a.m. here at the church, we'll have a little workshop on using AI tools, ChatGPT, some video creation. And if you want to bring a laptop and actually do something creative at that time, you can. It's not brain science, thank goodness, or I couldn't teach it to you. But we'll do that next Saturday, October 7th, 10:30 here at the church. Okay, and then I want to offer some stuff. That's what I'll offer, something like that for our auction. But the deadline is October 11th, so if you would please get your stuff into the office soon, we'd appreciate it. Okay, now, to a more serious matter, which I'm sure most of you are aware of. Church member Jacob Johns was shot on Thursday during what was supposed to be a peaceful demonstration in Albuquerque, New Mexico, after a young man, reportedly wearing a MAGA hat, although I'm hearing words now that may not have been the case, but whatever the case, he was not friendly to the group that was there, and at some point pulled out a gun and shot Jacob. Jacob's injuries were enough to put him in critical condition. He's already had 2 surgeries, has at least 1 more scheduled. He remains in the University of New Mexico hospital where he's being treated. I did get to communicate with his mom this morning, who is with him, and Jacob was very glad that I did, and had her take a picture of him in his hospital bed and doing the peace sign, you know. But it was good to see that spark of his soul coming through that photograph. But he also still has a fever. He's in a lot of pain, and again has additional surgery coming up. So definitely not out of the woods. And he may have some life-changing injuries because of this, regardless of what happens next. So please keep Jacob and his family in your thoughts. We are going to take up a special collection during this service to help for whatever Jacob needs it. There's been a GoFundMe out there that's been very successful to go towards his medical expenses, and we can do that as well with a special collection of our own this morning. And it may be that Jacob has other expenses besides medical bills that need to be taken care of as well. So hopefully we can contribute and give him a boost there. But if you do want to contribute, I'll give you that heads up early in the service. You should have a special collection envelope in your order of service. Great. And you can use that to make your contribution if you choose to. You don't have to seal it. You just put it in the envelope and we'll know what it's for. If you are streaming with us this morning, you're also welcome to go online and just indicate in the contribution page that this is for our special collection today. And we really do appreciate your generosity. Again, that'll be coming up shortly in the service. Also, you notice that our candle is lit here at the front of our church. This is our unity candle, something that we light on behalf of a member who has passed away. And on Tuesday, Al Toutant passed away after his long struggle with Alzheimer's disease. Al and his wife, Bernie, and their family have been involved in our church for over 50 years. I think she told me 56 years. It's been a very long time, and everybody in that family that I have met, their kids, Mike, Marie, and Kathy, and their spouses, Jean, Jim, and Matt, and their grandchildren are sweetness and kindness seems to be part of the genes in that family. I don't know, part of the requirements to get in or something. But Al was very much like that, even as he was still able to come to church, but obviously suffering from the effects of his disease. He'd come up to me at the end of the service, big smile on his face. Everyone remembers Al, and he'd shake my hand. He'd say, "Todd," very seriously, "Todd, you do such a good job for us. We are so fortunate to have you. Thank you." Yeah, just every Sunday, that deep, meaningful, heartfelt sense of appreciation and kindness, and that's all I've ever seen from him. So we've missed him for a while, and now he doesn't have to suffer from that terrible disease anymore. But we also recognize that Bernie and the kids will now have a real chance to begin to mourn his loss. So please keep them in your thoughts at this time, and we'll keep this candle lighted throughout our service as a symbol of Al's light and life to us. So let's just take a little moment of silence. That was a lot to take in. Thank you. And let's conclude the start of our service with just a few minutes to greet one another. It's a good crowd in here today. Say hello to some old friends and make some new ones today, if you will. Thank you. Thank you. And as always, there's more opportunity to visit during social hour following our service. But let's move forward now with the lighting of our chalice. Incidentally, Mel and Lois are downsizing. Now, she came in just a little bit ago, but they couldn't stay. They're moving into a retirement community this week. And Mel made this piece of art, and they wanted us to have it. It's a chalice that they thought the church could use. It's just a beautiful piece of work. So we'll have to find a place for that and maybe have it lit at some point during our service as well. But I hope you'll come up and look at it after the service, because the intricacies of it are quite astonishing. Was it okay to put this on the piano, or is it no? It's okay? It's not? You say it's okay, huh? Don't slide it?
Yeah, but if you put it carefully. No? Okay. That's not my
It's an authoritarian thing here, right? Is it going to block? It's actually going to amplify the piano music because it's a bowl. No? All right, I'm going to leave it up to the boss. I'll leave it up to the boss. Well, I'd like to put it somewhere that you could come up and see it after the service. I'll just hold it.
You want a chair? Have a chair.
Gordon's going to make a table.
Okay, there you go.
This is all about being tolerant today, so I don't want to offend anybody by putting something on the furniture. Is this table okay? This one's okay? All right. Wow. Good. That's actually better, so thank you. Thank you, Gordon. Okay, what were we doing? Oh, we haven't lit it yet. You did light it? Okay. All right. Good enough. Let's leave it there. We have 2 chalices today.
My opening reflection this morning is paraphrased from one of my favorite books, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Imagine that everyone you know and everyone you meet is perfectly enlightened. That is, everyone except you. The people you meet are all here to teach you something. The obnoxious driver or the disrespectful teenager is here to teach you about patience. The punk rocker might be here to teach you to be less judgmental. Your job is to try to determine what the people in your life are trying to teach you. If you do this, you'll be far less annoyed, bothered, and frustrated by the actions and imperfections of other people. Often, once you discover what someone is trying to teach you, it's easy to let go of your frustrations. When stuck in a line waiting while someone appears to be moving slow or taking their time, ask yourself the question, what is he trying to teach me? Compassion if his job is not easy or one that would be hard to like? Patience? You may be surprised at how fun and easy this is. All you're really doing is changing your perception from, why are they doing this, to, what are they trying to teach me? Take a look around you today at all the enlightened people.
Please stand and join me for Filled with Loving Kindness, number 1031 in the teal hymnal.
We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning, and we'll begin this morning as we have been for some time now on behalf of the people of Ukraine and that part of the world that are being most impacted by the violence there. And I know there are lots of other global issues we can be concerned about that are impacting the lives of people both abroad and here on the continent as well. So I will save those for you to mention during our silent moment, but do want to at least kindle another candle on behalf of Jacob Johns, of course, and his family, and Bernie Toutant and their entire family who are grieving Al's loss at this time. So let's take that moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And as I said, we do have a special collection today on behalf of Jacob Johns. If you do wish to give to this, please use that special collection envelope. If you're streaming with us online and want to make a contribution, again, just make that a memo on the contributions page. So thank you all so much for your compassion and generosity in advance. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Trouble in mind, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always, 'cause the sun's gonna shine in my back door someday. Trouble in mind, it's true, I've almost lost my mind, never had so much trouble in my life before. I'm going down to the river, gonna take my old rocking chair, and if the blues don't leave me, I'll rock away from there. Trouble in mind, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always, 'cause the sun's gonna shine in my back door someday. 'Cause the sun's gonna shine in my back door someday.
Madeline, Maura, thank you both so much. Incredible. It is now time for our story for all ages, so if anybody wants to come up and get a little closer, you can. How's school going? Good? You guys making new friends? Have you made new friends? That's great. That doesn't surprise me. You're a friendly guy. I'll bet all of you have lots of friends, don't you? You're pretty, yeah? Yeah, that's good. That's good. A bunch. I'm impressed, man. Well, I want to introduce you to a friend here. Let's see, I don't know. Who do we have here today? Goofy. Goofy, you think so? Let's double check. How do we know that you're Goofy? Let's see, are you Goofy? Well, you have to tell me. Okay. Well, you do have what does he have that's Goofy? Well, yeah, you have a Goofy hat. Yeah, just don't let it go to my head. Oh, come on now. Okay, and what else is he wearing that's kind of goofy? Yeah, go ahead. Different colors. You're wearing some goofy colors. Well, it just proves that I'm not a figment of your imagination. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And what else? Yes, what else? The goofy gloves. Yes, you've got some goofy hands. Well, yeah, I got 4 fingers so I can count to 8. Okay, well, very good. I guess then you must be goofy. Well, how'd you guess? Well, it wasn't hard to do. In fact, I've always known that you were Goofy because Goofy happens to be one of my favorite Disney characters. Oh, golly geez, you're one of my favorite Disney characters too. Well, thank you, but I'm not a Disney character. Well, you're some kind of character. Well, okay, maybe that's true. So I've been wondering a couple things about you. Well, that makes 2 of us. Does it? Okay, well, I hope you don't mind me asking. Well, that still makes 2 of us. I'd like to know, you know what I'd like to know about Goofy? What we've all been wondering. Are you a dog or are you a cow? Neither. I'm Goofy. Okay, I guess that's my main question. You see, today we're going to be talking about tolerance. Oh, they're pretty short, aren't they? What's that? Ants. I say they're little critters. No, I didn't say taller ants. I said tolerance. You know what tolerance is? Tolerance means being kind and respectful to everyone, including those who don't think or look exactly like us. That's what tolerance is. You mean like an ant tall enough to play basketball? Well, that would be quite an ant for sure, but let's forget about ants because we want to talk about you, Goofy. Well, I told you I'm not a cow or a dog or an ant. I'm just Goofy. Well, okay, that's what I mean. Do you ever mind being called Goofy? Goofy's kind of a strange thing to be called, right? Heck no, that's a name. What else would I be called? Well, it's kind of an insulting name. No, it's a goofy name. Well, so you're never offended that people call you Goofy. I wear goofy clothes, don't I? Well, yes, we've established that. And I sound goofy, don't I? You do sound a bit goofy at times. And I look goofy, don't I? Yeah, admittedly you do. You say, I remember. You've gotten big. He's growing up. Well, if you don't mind us saying so, yes, you do look a little bit goofy. And everything I do is goofy, right? Yes? No doubt. Yes? Okay. Then I'm Goofy. Through and through. All right. Well, I guess that's why you've always been one of my favorite characters, Goofy. 9-2. Why is that? Well, because you don't mind being yourself. Even if you are goofy. In fact, you love being goofy. And that's what makes you unique, and that's why we love you. Right, guys? Well, golly gee. I better go before that goes to my head. Then I'd have no place to go and put my hat. Well, that's true. You have someplace else to go? Someplace else, something else to do? I sure do. What do you think he's going to do? I'm going to go goof off. All right. Thank you, Goofy. And now we'll sing the kids out.
I invite you now into a time of meditation. Find a comfortable position, put your feet on the floor, close your eyes if you wish. Take a deep breath in, breathe out, and reflect on these words. The way of the universe is to fill that which is empty, and to empty that which is full. When we are full, nothing else can enter. But when we are empty, all things can come to us.
Marvelous, thank you. Whatever happened leading to the terrible violence against our church member Jacob Johns this week, leaving him in critical condition and needing to undergo multiple surgeries, I'm certain that it was an act of extreme intolerance on the part of the angry young man who shot him. I could not have foreseen that something like this would have happened to one of our own members when I planned to give this sermon over a month ago. But the kind of gun violence which has been routine in U.S. society for far too long due to the extreme negligence of the Republican Party and the partisan Supreme Court, such overt instances of intolerance can happen anywhere in the nation these days at any time, and will continue to do so until there is a renewed commitment to this most important of all societal necessities: tolerance. It's hard to have a modicum of hope sometimes that such a renaissance might actually occur, given all the hate and division we see in our society today. Yet I think that most people do value this principle, and they want a more tolerant and peaceful world. For example, I'm sure you're familiar with the coexist bumper sticker that's spelled out with different religious symbols. The C is the Islamic crescent moon, the P is the peace sign, the E is the equality symbol, the X is the Star of David, the I representing individuality is dotted with a Wiccan pentacle, and the S is the Taoist yin yang mandala, and the T is the Christian cross. Since the year 2000, when it was developed by a graphic designer in Poland as part of an international contest organized by the Museum Asim for Dialogue, Understanding, and Coexistence in Jerusalem, Coexist has become the most popular and familiar bumper sticker in the world, surpassing the popularity of the baby on board and my child is an honor student at Name the School, that were the most popular bumper stickers in the 1980s and the 1990s. So that says something. That says something, that in addition to loving our kids, most of us want to promote living peacefully with others, no matter how different we are. But on the other hand, Peggy and I saw a bumper sticker just the other day that looked almost identical to Coexist, the Coexist decal, but instead, the various symbols, religious symbols, were used to spell out the word convert. At the bottom in smaller print was a quote from the Gospel of John: "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me." It's like that scene in the Lord of the Rings where Gandalf takes his staff and puts it down. "I shall not pass." So I don't really know the intention of the vehicle's driver, who may just consider this a funny and clever way to express pride in his or her own faith. But to me, it was a statement reflecting a kind of self-righteousness and the intolerance that comes along with that attitude. So hopefully, we're not going to be seeing many of these bumper stickers on the roads. But this example does help make the point that I want to address, that tolerance is not a value that everyone shares, nor has it ever been. Considering the state of the world these days, it appears those of us who do often find it easier to put on the back of our cars than to put into practice. Surely there are many behaviors that we cannot tolerate, which is why we have laws, but speech, beliefs, books, and demonstrations should not be among the things that we will not tolerate in our society. especially not in a society that tolerates civilians owning weapons of mass murder. Yet increasingly, it is the free flow of ideas that is forbidden, even as the shootings and killings are allowed to continue going on a daily basis. Some might say that I'm intolerant of Republicans. I am not. I have many friends who are Republicans. But I do disagree with many of the GOP's positions, especially those that prevent us from doing anything meaningful to prevent mass murder and global warming, two of the deadliest matters in the world. Saying so doesn't make me intolerant. It is part of the important dialogue that must be allowed in a sane and functional society. Those who think tolerance means keeping our mouths shut to keep the peace, or so that we don't upset those who disagree with us, is enabling behavior. It is not tolerating it. Toleration is not the same thing as masochism. Today, institutions on the left, those once devoted to promoting tolerant societies based upon the truth of our universal and common humanity, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, have become intolerant of anyone who says anything they disagree with and rush to destroy their characters and their careers and to discredit and silence them. Whether it is Fox News or MSNBC using traditional media or the masses turning to social media, the tools of intolerance used to demonize and displatform ideological opponents are widely used by both the right and the left today. Rather than engaging in dialogue by tolerating and thus entertaining the potential value of other ideas not our own, we draw lines, deep lines in the sand, and isolate ourselves in echo chambers before those ideas can ever get to us. In politics, it's particularly rare these days to see any hint of tolerance for the opposition party. It is more usual to seize the slightest opportunity to take advantage of a gaffe, any stumble an opponent makes, or to intentionally misrepresent or misconstrue what an opponent says, or to blow the importance of a mistake way out of proportion. Today, for example, I regularly hear people say that President Biden is obviously senile, incoherent, and incompetent. As proven by brief sound bites taken out of context in which he stutters, or videos of him falling or staring blankly for a few seconds. I can tell you, if anyone follows me around with a camera all day, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for them to portray me in the same light, and I'm guessing that's so for quite a few of us, right? You don't have to agree. Not pointing any fingers. See, I might stare off just up here in the pulpit even. Carrying a chalice around, what am I going to do? Oh, goodness. But I also hear Biden's long speeches. I hear his press conferences and his interviews in which he sounds perfectly present and rational. Contrast this with the president's own response to the disturbing videos most of us saw of Senator Mitch McConnell in recent weeks becoming unresponsive during 2 press conferences following a serious head injury. This would have been the perfect opportunity for Biden to counterpunch and take advantage of his most powerful political opponent. Instead, it almost moved me to tears by the response that he gave when asked to comment on the matter during an August 30th press conference. I just heard literally coming out, he said, and Mitch is a friend, as you know, not a joke. I know people don't believe that's the case when we have disagreements politically, but he's a good friend. So I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon. I don't know enough right now to know. A couple of days later, he was asked if he'd had a chance to speak to McConnell. Yes, I have, he said. I spoke to Mitch, and he's a friend, and I spoke to him today. And you know, he was his old self on the telephone. And having a little understanding of dealing with neurosurgeons, and one of the leading women in my staff, her husband is a neurosurgeon as well, it's not all unusual to have a response that sometimes happens to Mitch when you've had a severe concussion. It's part of the recovery. And so I'm confident he's going to be back to his old self. Then when asked if he had any concerns about McConnell's ability to do his job, Biden said resoundingly, "No, I don't." To me, this presidential response is a sign of sanity, not senility. If only his opponents would show the same, just an inkling of such respect for his inherent worth and dignity. More importantly, if only more of us would show the same respect, the same degree of tolerance toward those with whom we disagree. Coexist doesn't belong merely on the back of our cars where it's meant for others to see. We need to keep it in front of ourselves to continually remind us of how central this principle is, how necessary it is to a peaceful, civil, and productive society. We can't get there without it. So let's take a little time understanding this value that so many of us now believe in, aspire toward, and at the very least want to remind others of. Tolerance is one of the core ideas that emerged during the Renaissance in reaction against church orthodoxy and its brutal enforcement, a value that would soon become indicative of Enlightenment liberalism. Prior to this, I should say, this idea of tolerating different ideas was considered unthinkable and unethical. As historian Richie Robertson says in his most recent 2021 book on the Enlightenment, through many centuries, intolerance seemed to be a virtue. It was no kindness to indulge people in error, especially error that would lead to damnation. The notion of tolerance was initially so offensive that its mere mention could get a person in hot water, literally during the medieval ages. Toleration was seen as traitorous. At the time, Christendom had been torn apart by the Reformation, which had led to all kinds of religious wars and cruelties. There was much animosity between the religious sects, and they were terrified of outsiders because of it. Tolerance was dangerous. The 17th century Anglican preacher Edward Stillingfleet likened tolerance to a Trojan horse, which brings in our enemies without being seen, he said. Tolerance brings in our enemies without being seen. Additionally, Robertson says toleration was also considered wrong in principle, as it implied indifference to divine truth and disregard for ecclesiastical authority. This, I imagine, is the sentiment behind that convert bumper sticker I previously mentioned. Back then, preventing violence and conflict depended on orthodoxy, not heterodoxy, on everybody thinking the same. It depended upon groupthink and intolerance. Tolerance was considered an obvious evil that only fools and wicked people would want. Why would you want something that would so upset our community? Is to allow the expression of differences. Yet after a century of brutal war and conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants, and between the Protestants and the Protestants, leaving tens to hundreds of thousands dead and to the ruin of their home and their lands, it became obvious that forcing everyone to believe the same thing wasn't possible. By the onset of the Enlightenment, Robertson says, it was increasingly felt that ways must be found for adherents of different religions to live together. If not harmoniously, then at least without open conflict. You don't have to like each other, you don't have to agree with each other, just don't kill each other. Even so, it would take hundreds of years for the idea of tolerance to become what it means for us today, namely, that we should treat everyone with respect no matter our differences, and that we should all enjoy the same rights and privileges, no matter what we believe. That wouldn't come for some time. At first, toleration may have been granted to certain groups, meaning that they would not be killed, but it also meant their ideas were not approved of. Kind of the ways that we treated gays in modern society until very recently, right? Don't ask, don't tell. There are marginal faiths, I should say those of marginal faiths were tolerated by the authorities, but they didn't have the same freedoms as everyone else, as the dominant group. In a 1598 French law, where Catholics dominated, granted Protestants freedom, but also required them to observe Catholic holidays, obey Catholic laws regarding marriage and contracts, and submit every book they printed to censorship. Things only worsened from there. 24 years later, the French Protestants were no longer allowed to perform burials during the day, and they were no longer allowed to have government representatives. Marriage between Protestants and Catholics became illegal. Protestant women could not be midwives. Protestants could not practice law or medicine, and soldiers were sent to occupy their homes and their communities, and they weren't even free to immigrate elsewhere, and those who defied the bans had their properties and belongings confiscated. That was tolerance. Things were similar in the Dutch Republic, where the Dutch Reformed Church was the official religion. Other religions were tolerated, but toleration meant that Catholics could not hold public office, nor build their own churches, but for a fee, they could hold services in buildings that were not considered churches. Robertson says it was very limited liberty that allowed them to attend Mass only in private houses and usually under cover of darkness. Although the Dutch tolerated other religions to the same degree, or at least to some degree, they considered Socinianism, which for those who know our history, was the precursor of Unitarianism, an intolerable heresy. So we couldn't even get oppressed. We couldn't even live with them and be oppressed. Some years earlier, in 1553, Unitarianism's founder, Michael Servetus, was burned at the stake, the fire stoked by his own writings questioning Trinitarian doctrine. His martyrdom caused Unitarians to shun such intolerance from our religion's inception. It became so important to us that historian Earl Morse Wilbur summarized Unitarianism by its fundamental principles of freedom, reason, and tolerance, adding that the first and most essential of its three controlling principles is that of generous tolerance of differing views. This is why after Hungarian King John Sigismund Zapolya became a Unitarian, his very first act was to pass the first religious toleration act in history, the Edict of Torda, in 1568. 1568. Rather than commanding that all of his subjects be Unitarian like their king, he did something extraordinary. He passed an edict stating, "No one shall be reviled for his religion by anyone. And it is not permitted that anyone should threaten anyone else by imprisonment or by removal from his post for his teaching. He was trying to get ahead of the cancel culture. The Unitarians were ahead of their time, and unfortunately King Sigismund's progressive social experiment was short-lived due to his accidental death, at which time the Catholics took over and immediately passed an anti-innovation law prohibiting any new ideas that hadn't already been expressed when the edict was still in place. So they grandfathered a little bit of heresy in, but no new heresies. So it wouldn't be until the Enlightenment was in full force that this principle would again come to reflect the scope Unitarianism gave it in the 16th century. Philosopher John Locke, for example, began his 1689 essay, A Letter Concerning Toleration, saying, "I esteem that toleration to be the chief characteristic mark of the true church." I'm not sure he didn't have a coexist bumper sticker on the back of his horse-drawn carriage, but his message is certainly similar. The belief that religions of all institutions ought to be defined by ideological tolerance. Those who only emphasize their own orthodox beliefs, Locke said, are simply striving for power and empire over one another, are destitute of any charity, meekness, or goodwill, including for those who are not Christians, and thus fall short of being Christians themselves. Without tolerance, according to Locke, you cannot be a Christian. And I would be remiss not to point out that what Locke said then is true today, unfortunately, of many Unitarian Universalists whose postmodern orthodoxy has caused them to become authoritarian and destitute of charity, meekness, and goodwill toward those who do not share their perspective. The broader understanding of tolerance was, this broader understanding of tolerance of Locke's was much better than that of the Renaissance Catholics and Protestants, but Robertson says arguments like it still assume that toleration is something undesirable, that it would still be better if everyone agreed on everything. It is not yet an argument, he says, against interfering with the sanctity of individual conscience. What one misses above all is in Locke's argument is a sense that there is anything morally wrong with intolerance, or a sense of any deep concern for the victims of persecution or the moral insult that is involved in the attempt to manipulate their faith. That didn't arrive yet. It would be another century before philosopher Immanuel Kant would renounce what he called the arrogant title of tolerance, precisely because it did not require us to advocate for the rights and freedoms of those with whom we disagree. For Kant, it isn't enough to merely tolerate those we disagree with. We must fully accept them as equals, as citizens, and hopefully as neighbors. Preachers and scholars should be free to continue publicly disagreeing, but when it came to the laws of our governments in their task, Kant says, it is the government's job to leave everyone free to use one's own reason in all matters of conscience. After Kant, the French Enlightenment philosopher Voltaire began campaigning against intolerance as immoral. He said, "It does not require any great art or studied elocution to prove that Christians ought to tolerate one another. Nay, I shall go still farther and say that we ought to look upon all men as our brethren. How? Call a Turk, a Jew, and a Siamese my brother? Yes, doubtless. For are we not all children of the same parent, and the creatures of the same Creator? Hence the concept of intolerance completely flipped. It had initially been considered good and moral, and tolerance an obvious evil. Then tolerance became a necessary evil, enabling us to keep the peace, even if some were still discriminated against. Finally, tolerance becomes the obvious good, and intolerance the obvious evil. At this point, Robertson says, the reluctance that is implied in tolerance has been dropped. Tolerance has mutated into acceptance. And this is what this cornerstone of our liberal religion, Unitarianism, is supposed to mean for us, and what it meant to the Enlightenment liberals who fashioned our democracies, and from whom our liberal religion was born, at least in the U.S. Hence, this broader and advanced understanding of tolerance is also what it ought to mean for us as North Americans. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with everyone, nor even like everyone, but it does mean that we must live peacefully with them and allow them to enjoy the same rights and freedoms as ourselves. It even means that we must fight for them to have those freedoms and those rights when necessary. It means treating them with dignity. Does this modern idea of tolerance raise the bar too high? Or is it just high enough? Should we only refrain from killing each other while we go on hating each other? Is that enough? Is that the society we want? Or must we guarantee, protect, and value the rights and dignity of those that we disagree with? Do we convert or do we coexist? Which bumper sticker belongs on the back of our cars? Which value do we put before us? I have a dear friend, Carl, who is a conservative Christian. We have very different religious and political beliefs, yet we delight in each other's company. When I struggle to understand these deeper questions of life, I turn to philosophy and psychology and science. Carl turns to theology, the Bible, and prayer. Yet in our own way, we arrive at the same place. Some time ago, Carl says he was bothered by non-believers, and he wanted to find a message of unity for them. He said he prayed one night for guidance, went to sleep, and he awoke in the night with a statement in his head that he jumped out of bed to write down, and he's not forgotten. He said, "Most of all whom you've condemned shall one day be with me in paradise. While they have chosen a different path to me than the one you've felt important for them to take, their hearts are just right. So replace your unauthorized judgments with the same love that I continue to share with you each day. For in such love there is no error, only good." From your friendly neighborhood conservative Christian. Carl considers this a universalistic message to have come from the Holy Spirit. I would say it reflects a spirit of wholeness, the unity that he was seeking. We may not all agree about a lot of things, but we share this same value, this same understanding of what tolerance is supposed to mean in a modern society. We cannot hate our way into the perfect world we want. Hate only guarantees that we'll never get there, and that we'll remain in a perpetual cycle of incivility, violence, and stagnation, as well as potential suffering, loss, and grief. It is only through allowing, valuing, and protecting the freedom and rights of everyone, no matter how much we may differ, to freely express their beliefs that together human society can thrive. As Immanuel Kant once wrote, the public use of one's reason must always be free, and it alone can bring about enlightenment among mankind. We need another enlightenment, and to get there, we must be tolerant. Thank you.
Please stand. Join me for our last hymn, which is not in the hymnal, but it's in your order of service. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh,
As we close today, I'd like to share a poem called A Friend. There is no need for legal bonds, nor spoken word, nor ceremony of any kind. A friend does not condemn, does not seek retribution, nor point the finger of guilt. A friend does not degrade, but